Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later, I'm going to talk to Dave Kopel about this gun lawsuit and the ruling that just came out. But first, I wanted to catch up with one of my favorite writers ever, Pete Blake, who for many years was the guy at the Rocky Mountain News to give all sorts of Politico advice and insider information, now doing a column at CompleteColorado.com. Pete, good to see you.
Good to see you.
How long did you work for the Rocky?
60 to 70, 39 years.
That's a pretty good stretch.
Yeah, it was. I didn't expect it to be that long, but time crept up on me.
What did you expect it to be?
I don't know. I was going to be a starting job and move on, but I like Colorado. It was interesting when I started.
Your column, for those who remember, you used to do real straight shot political, I wouldn't say prognostication, but kind of insider information. I mean, it was always kind of a quick shot of this is happening, that's happening, and this is happening. I don't see that really being picked up any
Well,
place.
I think because the web has taken it over, there's so many daily shots being by various political sites that you don't have to give the news so much as give analysis, I think.
But yours wasn't really a shot. I mean, there's a lot of barking at one another and partisanship and little quips going back and forth. But really what you did was political info, hard and fast. And I don't see that anymore.
Well, I think it's on the web, but nice of you to say so. Let's agree, okay.
All right. Tell me, after watching the press in Denver for the last now 40-some years, what's the biggest change besides, I mean, we all mourn the loss of the Rocky, which, you know, I'm still mourning the loss of the Rocky, not just because of the Rocky, but what that created at the Denver Post, which is a shadow of its former self. Would you agree?
Well, yes.
Why?
Because newspapers are in trouble. Ever since the classified ads went away, when you can start putting your class ad on the web with pictures and all, and when that revenue went away, the newspapers started to fail. And I have to say that Singleton must have had more will than Scripps Howard, so when it came turn to blink, it was Scripps Howard who had Home and Garden TV or something. And they fall back on. And they wouldn't even let us celebrate our 150th anniversary. We've closed it up, 3 months earlier.
Really?
Yep.
I remember going to the building that day, which is so odd because at that point you had a joint operating arrangement with the Denver Post. So the floor above was the Denver Post,
yep.
The floor below was the Rocky Mountain News, and it was sad to see the Rocky go. But I'll go to the Denver Post, and I've got friends who are reporters, and just great guys. But to see what the newsroom is keeps shrinking and shrinking. To see the copy editors, there were 8 of them that were laid off a year ago, and it just keeps shrinking to the point where reporters can't do their job. And I never thought I would have sympathy for reporters. All right, this is not. I never thought I'd live long enough to go, man, that's a tough break. But they're running so quickly to fill the blog and then the Twitter feed and then the newspaper article and then go back to their blog. It is almost like slinging hash. It's fast food journalism so much. There's no more in-depth reporting.
There's not so many people. And there's much less court coverage, for instance, less legislative coverage, less city government coverage. So, I mean, you haven't got the people, you can't do the coverage.
What do you think it's going to get replaced with? I mean, it's easy to say the web, but anything in particular? Or does it go back to being partisan reporting?
Well, that's what it seems to be now, more partisan websites, which actually have a long history in the United States. I mean, I think journalism started that way. I don't know whether there have been experiments with hyper-local coverage, and John Temple, our former publisher, tried that in Hawaii for a while. We should just concentrate on local coverage, but I'm not sure that's a money make either. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Switch gears a little bit. You've lived in Aurora for,
all the time I've been here in town, yeah.
All right, so over 40 years
Yep.
You've lived in Aurora.
Yeah.
All right. You've been critical of what seems to be the best economic driver ever invented in Aurora, this Gaylord project, which is a project to put a convention center and a hotel, and now I hear a swimming pool,
swimming
park
type thing. Yeah.
Next to the airport, DIA, so people can fly in, stay there, spend lots of money, and guys in Aurora can get all sorts of great jobs, making beds and serving dinner. What's wrong with this project? I mean, the city seems to like
Well,
it. Everybody loves this project.
There's 2 suits pending against it. One filed by a bunch of Denver hotels who complained that the law wasn't followed, and it doesn't look like the law was followed.
How do you mean? What wasn't
Well,
followed?
the winner of the Gaylord people who won the bid for the tourism money withdrew shortly after the bid and sold the rights to another company, which took it over and changed the plans. And the Denver hotels argued that that wasn't right. It didn't follow the law and should be
So in other words,
overturned.
this is a project that's happening because of a tourism tax that Aurora was able to get from the state. Is that, do
Yes,
I
and
understand that part correctly?
Yes, that's right. The Colorado tourism revenue, yes.
All right. And so that's one wonderful piece of corporate welfare for this massive project.
Yes, it's not like the Denver hotels didn't have a little of that themselves, mostly for historic preservations, but this is by far the largest of the. And they also having city. I mean, in addition to the state, the city is awarded extraordinary tax breaks,
The
tax
city of
increment
Aurora.
financing. Yes.
What is tax increment financing?
Well, in which they get to keep all the tax revenues that they earn, and pay back the loans or the bonds.
So in other words, the Gaylord project, this huge convention center, all the taxes that they get in
For a long time, 30 or 35 years, I
35
believe.
years, all like the sales tax and
Yeah.
property tax, and instead of
tax.
paying it to the city, they pay it basically to themselves.
Basically to themselves, yes.
Nice deal. I want this deal.
Well, yes, but you're going to have to hustle because it's already been awarded. But that has been sued by some taxpayers who claimed that it violated the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, Tabor, because when you change, they raised the taxes for this one area inside of Aurora, which A, may be illegal itself under Tabor, but B, when you have a tax vote, you have to have the residents of the district vote on it. Well, they decided not to have the residents of Aurora vote on it, but one person from the developing company, who I'm told lives in Denver.
Hang on.
One fella, yeah.
Explain this to me, because this one's pretty amazing. So you've got the city of Aurora, and usually when cities go into debt, they have to have a vote of the people. It's the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And even people who dislike some of the limitations in Tabor, they like that part.
They do.
So now the city has a vote, but only in part of the city, to say, can
Yes,
we go
that
to
one area which is going to be developed, and one employee of the developer did the vote.
So one employee can vote. There was a legal election with one voter?
Yes, that's what I've read, and that's what the plaintiffs charged. By the way, the plaintiffs are represented by an interesting combination: Sean Mitchell, a former state senator, a very conservative Republican, and Mark Gruskin, a very good lawyer who has always represented Democratic
I
clients.
know he's a very good lawyer,
Yes.
because he's caused me to spend lots of money fighting off his
Yeah.
claims.
Well, they're working together on this.
So
But
you've got a Republican and a Democrat doing this lawsuit, saying, wait a second, you can't have one guy vote to put everybody into debt.
That's one of their arguments. There's going to be a trial in December. Aurora wanted to get started during the second half of 2014. I don't know whether they will start while these lawsuits are pending. I don't know.
So who owns this? Who's the winner of this huge Gaylord project?
Well, it ended up being sold to Marriott, and Marriott chose a development firm, Rita or something like that. So they're the ones that are, and the plaintiffs have found documents showing that they think they can make money on it even without the subsidy, and they've changed the plans considerably. So it'll be an interesting court case.
Now I can get why the hotel guys and others in Denver might not want a tax subsidized competition to that.
Well,
that level.
Denver's already lost the medical complex, this huge medical complex. I don't know if
The
you've been by
Anschutz
there.
Center.
Anschutz,
Yeah, I mean, and it's a beautiful facility. All right, so I understand part of there. I can understand why people in Aurora might be upset about this, because they would have this obligation, or at least a moral obligation, this danger that if this doesn't pan out, it could bankrupt them. But why should we care outside of Aurora? Why do I care
I'm hoping that it doesn't. I mean, theoretically, the justification for tax increment financing is that it wouldn't exist if the project didn't go up. There would be no taxes. So if it does go belly up, whether they come back on the general taxpayers, I don't know whether that would be legal or whether it would be tried.
We don't know. But outside, why would a casual observer, why is this corporate welfare example so important? For me, and tell me if I'm off on this, this is the biggest hunk of corporate welfare that I've ever been aware of in Colorado, and I've seen a lot of these scams before. This one by far blows away anything else in scale.
Well, but why should one company get it? Why can't the same breaks be given to every Aurora business that might be trying to compete?
This is a fairness issue.
Yeah, well, Neil Westergaard made that point. He's the editor of the Denver Business Journal. Last month in an editorial, he thought this deal sunk.
Why? Because it's...
Yeah, because of the favoritism and so much money being plowed into one.
You know, what it gets to for me is that if you've got the connections, you get the deals. You know, there are other hotels in Aurora. There are other places that would love to be able to take all the money they're going to spend in taxes, bond it, and be able to build out their facilities.
You bet. But the city council or the urban renewal authority, which I think is the same thing in Aurora, they pick winners and the others are losers.
It reminds me a little bit about, and you've done some work on the transportation fights going on here with Uber.
Yes, and Lyft, yes.
Yeah, and Uber and Lyft are these amazing technologies where on your phone you can decide to have somebody pick you up.
Yeah, you know
and go.
Around. Yes.
But the PUC has tried to stop them, the Public Utilities Commission.
They did. In fact, Doug Dean, the director of the PUC, said if they didn't pass a bill, he was going to drive them out of business. Doug Dean does not seem to be a neutral intermediary here, but sort of an advocate for the taxi companies who want to have Uber gone.
These taxi companies have been a cartel for decades here and remarkably powerful. This seems like a great free market competition.
Well, it would be. It is. And the bill was passed. It's a rather odd bill. It's all done at the last minute, some negotiations. They have to, Uber and Lyft and anybody else who gets in the business have to pay $112,000 a year for fees to the PUC for inspections. And the taxi cabs only pay $5 each. And there's only 1,200 permits, so that's about $6,000 for permits. And of course, the taxi inspections are subsidized. This is very complicated but interesting. The taxi inspections are subsidized by money that the interstate truckers have to pay to the federal government, which sends it to Colorado to inspect Colorado taxis.
I love favoritism when it comes to government. The idea that a law should apply to everyone equally doesn't happen in D.C. and it doesn't happen here in Colorado.
No, or most anywhere else. I mean, Uber and Lyft are being attacked wherever they start. And you may have noticed in Europe, the British taxi cab drivers went on strike for a day, and I believe in Paris. It's great. It's all over the world.
It's so much easier to use government to put your competitors out of business than to use competition to win.
Yeah.
Pete, thank you. Your work always available at CompleteColorado.com.
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned.